All right, what's up, everybody? It's Monday. Good morning. Ravens had their first preseason game on Saturday. We're going to start there. Three major takeaways to kind of put a bow on the first preseason game. The first one is, I guess Emory Jones is not going to make the team. I mean, I hopefully nobody bet the Raven. I mean, I'm sure some people did, but God, is that a terrible way to lose a game? If you didn't see it, Emory Jones, the Eagles missed the field goal basically at the end of the game, 15, 16 seconds left. And then we get the ball at our own 30-ish, and Emory Jones, rookie undrafted quarterback, decides to drop back and then fumbles the ball. Eagles kick a field goal to win. So at least we got that figured out that he's not making the team because, my God, you can't have a worse omen than that. So got that out of the way. The second major takeaway is I wish Kenny Pickett was still in the Steelers because, man, he is just what a dink and dunker. Like, I don't know if he's ever going to have a career. Maybe he has like a 15-year Josh McCown career where he's just always a backup and like a nice guy. Maybe he's good with the media, but he's got a glove on, which just makes it look so corny. And then he just can't throw the ball down the field. So he's just awful. I wish he was on the Steelers still because I don't know how Russell Wilson or Justin Fields will be, but I know that entire franchise has to be happy that Kenny Pickett's not leading them because, man. So that was that. And then I guess the major takeaway and the relevancy moving forward is it's still the preseason, but how are you going to attack the Ravens? Like after last year, where we dominated the entire regular season, teams do their homework, they watch film, and it's like, well, how are we going to beat the Ravens next year? Like, what are some adjustments to make? And I would bet my life on it that the adjustment that teams are going to make is they're going to have the same game plan that the Rams had last year in that rainy, wild game. And whether or not each team's going to be able to execute it, but the way you're going to beat the Ravens is you're going to run the ball up the middle. Like there's Wiggins flashed. Hopefully his shoulder's okay. Man, he is quick out there. Our secondary is quick, disciplined. They were all there last year besides Wiggins. Marcus Williams is healthy. Kyle Hamilton, Humphrey, Stevens. The secondary is going to be super strong. It also takes, because of the lack of training camp, it takes a little bit of time for the connection with other teams, quarterback and receivers, and all that jazz. So I think plus, when you factor in the time of possession, which is you got to keep Lamar off the field, teams are just going to pound the ball right up the middle against the Ravens. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to handle it. It's going to be a big year, obviously, for Travis Jones. He was drafted out of Connecticut in the third round. Awful game against the Chiefs. Got a terrible 15-yard penalty. And if you watch that first half, you rewatch it, the Chiefs were able to run the ball up the middle and make it 3rd and 4, 2nd and 6, and they were able to stay ahead of the chains, if you will, and that's why they were converting all those third downs. They were manageable third downs. The Broderick Washington, the Travis Jones, the Michael Pierce, Urban, the rotation they want to use up there, they're going to have to be strong because the logic from the Bears standpoint, if you go back and look at when they traded Roquan, their analysis of it was we're not good at stopping the run with Roquan. So the Ravens defensive line, I think, is their weak point. They obviously don't have Patrick Queen. I don't know if that will be, I don't even think we'll honestly miss him. I think Trent Simpson will pop right in there, but they got to win the line of scrimmage. They have to win the line of scrimmage. The Eagles it was a nice test. Again, it's the preseason, but that's what I'm going to be expecting starting on week 1 with the Chiefs. They're going to try to pound the ball up the middle. That's my main takeaway as we go to preview the Ravens as we get closer to the season. That's what I'm looking at. Is what's our run defense going to be like? Because if teams going to be in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 against us, we're going to win another 13 games because you're not going to convert 3rd and 8s and 3rd and 9s with the blitz packages that we can produce and the secondary. The way to beat the Ravens is you're going to have to run the ball up the middle. So overall, I don't know. Every time I watch the preseason, I try to find like 1 or 2 players that jump out at me or something that's interesting. And this week there was a couple things here and there, but the overall takeaway was, man, it was just such a vanilla offense. I think Josh Johnson's fine as the backup quarterback. I mean, you got to remember there's only so many guys that want to be the backup. So you can't bring somebody in that wants Lamar's position. I'm okay with Josh Johnson, and I like Leary sneaking the ball in at the end of the game. I thought that, so whatever. I wasn't as down about the quarterbacks as some people. All right, that's the Ravens. We got who they play Saturday against the Falcons, and then we'll talk about that. All right. I was trying to think of a nice way to do this, but I can't think of a nice way to do this. So I'm just going to say it. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but we're all watching the game. We all, I don't think I'm breaking any news here when I say that everybody's frustrated with Hyde. Just extremely frustrating. I thought he was awful this weekend, almost as bad as he was with the pinch hitting situation, with Holiday and Cowser that we talked about, that nobody could find any sort of reason why he's doing that. He was bad again. He was bad yesterday, but he was even worse on Friday night in a situation to me. I don't know if it was worse, but it was a decision that I was like, I could not believe he did it because he can't read the room. He's got to go. I'm going to make the case for it, but I want to go over the two things that he did that just blew my mind. So it's Friday night. The Orioles, it's 4-0 or 4-1. I can't remember. I think it was 4-0 at the time when he did this. Ninth inning, and Santander's up. And if you understand, you don't have to be a therapist here or whatever. You don't have to have a master's in psychology to understand this basic concept, which is Anthony Santander is a free agent at the end of the year. So every time he gets to bat, every home run he hits, anytime he does something great in the field, he's just a human being. That's more money into his pocket. You don't want to think like that, but that's just the reality of it. If he can block it out, good for him. But the point is, he's going to get one contract for the rest of his career. He's going to get a 4 to 5 year deal, either with us or somewhere else, that's going to give him generational money. He's having a great season. It's the ninth inning. We're winning 4-0 or 4-1. Game's pretty much, we're rolling here. And Santander's getting ready to bat. And Hyde's like, pinch it. Let's get Slater up there. In Hyde's mind, he's doing it because he wants Slater to have some reps in right field, to get an extra at bat or two, because you never know, somebody could get injured, things could happen. And to that, I would say totally fine. If it was anybody, I think anybody but Santander, meaning you got Cowser up there, you got Mullins, O'Hearn, Mountcastle, and if that's your thought process, whatever. But not Santander, because you're eating into his money. Like you're not recognizing the room, which is he gets a free at bat right now. There's no pressure, there's no nothing. He wants that at bat. He played all game. It's a long day. Like you have to understand the psychology of a human being. It's a Friday night. That means he's been at work since, I don't know when they get there, 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, batting practice, this, that, and third. 8 hours later, the game's over. We're up 4-0. I get to bat with no pressure. Maybe I hit a home run. Maybe I don't, but I'm going to try. And the manager's like, nah, you just stay on the bench. I want to get Austin Slater, the 35-year-old platoon guy, and at bat. Really, it's just nobody talks about it. Santander's not going to say anything, but I would bet my life that there's eye rolls all over the place where it's like, what are you doing? Just sit there, drink your water, and let the game end. Let Santander get in that bat. It's absurd. That was the first thing that bothered me, but nobody really talked about because we won the game and it's just insignificant. Then yesterday, when you talk about having to get attention, like everybody recognizes it, like in a group setting, you go out with your friends or you go to work, and there's always that person that needs attention, and nobody likes that person, whether or not we call them out for it. But nobody likes the person that needs attention. It's so off-putting. And the older you get, the more ridiculous it is. When you're young, you're a kid, whatever, you get it, you kind of just roll your eyes. But the older you get, you're like, what is wrong with you? Are you that insecure as a human being that you need so much attention? And that's how I feel about Hyde. I mean, he is terrible. What he did yesterday it's criminal. Like, you cannot take Suarez out of the game. You just can't. There's no explanation for it. There's no reasoning for it. There's nothing. There's just nothing. You're messing up the vibe. You're messing up the momentum, and you're overdoing it because you need credit. There's no way he could convince himself that was the best decision. It's just, I want credit for something. You take Suarez out. Perez was awful the night before. Like, these guys are not robots. He had a bad night. let him sit for a second. You didn't need to put him in there. It was the wrong move. Of course, it blows up in his face. And I don't know how many effing times I have to say this, but there's no way Elias and Hyde are on the same page. Hyde is contradicting Elias left and right. Every effing time Elias says something, Hyde purposely contradicts it. It's almost as if Hyde has no power in decision making, except when he decides to pinch hit or come up with his bullshit lineup. Because Elias went on a whole rant about how Kimbrel's the closer. Kimbrel's the closer. Kimbrel's the closer. And Hyde's like, I don't know. Let's just bring him in at random times. Who knows? And it's still Kimbrel's fault. He's got to throw the ball over the plate, but you're not giving him the best chance to succeed. You should have brought him in on Saturday night to get the close. Instead, you bring in Dominguez. You fuck everything up. Then you bring him in the eighth inning, and the vibe is just off. I said it a week ago. Either bench him completely and cut him off the roster and tell Kimbrel he's done. Like, we're done with him. See you later. We'll pay you. Just go to Florida. Go away. Just go away. Get off the roster. Because you can't put him on that team and then say he's not the closer. Who's the alpha back there? Who's the guy? There is no guy. And it's just, it messes every single thing up, period. And he screws that up. But he's also screwing up other things left and right. He screws up the Mayo situation in a way that's almost hard to quantify because he can't. I think he thinks this is a video game where Mayo has no personality, no emotions. He's a robot. He was created in some lab that Dr. Fauci came up with. I don't know. Like, he must think that Mayo has no feelings because he's like, I'll just bench you for 3 straight days. You'll just sit here. Then I'm going to play you. Then you go 0 for 2. Now I'm going to pinch hit for you. But I'm going to let you pinch hit in these other situations that you've never done before. And it's like, how about you just let him go 0 for 5 for the night? You know what? How about you just let him bat for the whole game and let him play? Like, you can't keep doing this because it messes everything up. He goes 0 for 2 yesterday. Then you pinch hit for him. You put O'Hearn in. You're rushing the pinch hitting spots. It's like he just has to do something to do it. And then he does. It's not the unthinkable, but it's like every time he turns around, he gets every player wrong. So Adley, he wants to give him some more rest, right? It's like, all right, we want McCann in there. We're winning with McCann. Adley's not swinging the bat well. Fine. Makes that decision. Adley responds on Saturday with a massive, massive game. Smacking the ball right in the 4 spot. Great. Now he benches him again on Sunday, which you're like, all right, it's a day after whatever. Fine. Okay, fine. You made the decision to bench him, period. Slater, you're giving him the start. He's 2 for 3. He's got 2 hits. That is not the pinch hitting spot for Adley to come in and pinch hit there. It's just not. You cannot read the room any worse than Hyde is. And I was like thinking about why is he this? Why is he doing this? Right? Is he just dumb? And the answer is no, he's not dumb. You can't make it this far by just being dumb. Like, that's not the answer, right? It's not that he's dumb. It's worse than that. He is selfish. Like, there's no other way to look at his behavior besides saying he's selfish, or he thinks he knows better, which I don't know what's worse, but he's got to go, and Freddie Gonzalez should be the manager. And here's not the nice part. Brandon Hyde's resume is so bad. It's so bleak. And I don't think he's honest with what his resume is. I don't think he's honest about how he's had such little impact on this team's winning. And no one's telling him the elephant in the room is, I could have managed this team. You could have managed this team. Someone's grandmother could have managed this team. Because when he was the manager of this team, before Adley came up, we're the worst team in baseball. He got hired only. The only reason why Brandon Hyde got hired is because nobody else wants that fucking job. We had the worst ownership in all of sports. We're not going to spend any money. Got rid of Buck and all the good players. And we're like, we're going to rebuild for 5 years. Who wants this job? Raise your hand. And the person that we hired, this is his resume. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Never made it to the majors. Bottomed out at AAA, then played in some international league in 2001. Complete bottom out. Nothing to talk about. Nothing at all. Then he gets a job in the Cubs organization. If you go and look at it, he has no significant power, authority. Nobody cares what his thoughts are. His claim to fame is that in 2015, as Joe Madden is hired to be the Cubs manager, Hyde, who was serving as the bench coach for Edgar Renteria, who was the previous coach, gets demoted from bench coach to first base coach. So he is the first base coach on the 2016 World Series winning Chicago Cubs. That's his resume. That's it. There is nothing else on there. That's it. End of story. 2018 rolls around. We got to hire somebody. Who wants this job? We're going to pick somebody that's cheap, whose dream job is to be a manager, who knows that he could be one and done, but he took that. Oh God, I don't like being rude. I really don't, but he's ruining one of my favorite teams to root for because he needs attention. And this is why I feel like he needs attention. He gets hired and the team sucks right away. Every single fan, every single Oriole, every single, a baseball aficionado looks at the Orioles trajectory and it's very clear what happened. The team sucked until Adley came up. It wasn't the team sucked until Brandon Hyde figured something out. It was like, no. This team is terrible, god awful. Nobody wants to watch. No leadership, no nothing. And then Adley came up. So people that look at the Orioles, it's the pre-Adley and the post-Adley, because that's the only thing that changed. It wasn't Brandon Hyde came up with something. It just wasn't. The story of the Orioles is Adley and then the fantastic drafting of Elias, and then you get to gush over the players. So nobody is confused about why the Orioles are successful. It's very obvious to everybody. They bottomed out, and then they drafted extremely well, which Hyde gets no credit for. And then the best players have proven to be all-stars, which Hyde gets no credit for, right? Like nobody looks at Adley and Gunnar and we're like, well, we're really glad that Hyde helped out with the development. If anything, we go to Elias and his disciples. Like who's in charge of working with these pitchers? Who fixed Jacob Webb? Who fixed Fujinami? Who fixed Burt Smith? It's not fucking Brandon Hyde, that's for damn sure. Like he's not part of the story. He's just not. He's just the figurehead that was there, and his job was to make sure everybody showed up on time. I mean, like he has no impact on winning whatsoever. And now that we're in a position to win, I get the feeling that he doesn't like that the narrative completely excludes him from any sort of conversation. Yeah, he got AL Manager of the Year last year, but nobody that really watches baseball and understands it was giving Brandon Hyde credit because it's just not the story of the Orioles. The same way Harbaugh doesn't get credit in 2012 for that Super Bowl. It's just not the story. He was a figurehead that we needed him to get out of the way, right? Like he's not coaching up Joe Flacco. He's not the offensive coordinator. It's the same beef that Eagles fans have with Sirianni. Like, what are you doing? Are you helping the team or are you just there? Because if you're just going to be there, then just get out of the way. And I thought Harbaugh got out of the way when he became the coach. He made a couple changes, but I'm going to hire coordinators. I'm the figurehead. I'm the CEO. Whether you like him or don't like him, I feel like he accepted his role. And Hyde, at some point during the season, all of a sudden and to me, it stems from a disagreement with Elias with these younger players. From Kerstead, Cowser got the same treatment also, where Hyde, it feels like, is putting these guys on the roster, wants them to get at bats, and Hyde has like a hard one for McKenna and Hayes, and he just wants to do it with the guys that were there in the trenches when we were losing all those games, and it's just frustrating. It really is, and I hate complaining. You got to understand. That my default mechanism is to defend coaches. Like I'm careful about what I say on here because I don't know exactly who's listening. So make sure I don't drop names and talk about kids that are, whatever. Anyway, but I had kids on my team that were not good at basketball. And I think that they not good compared to like not playing college basketball. That's what I mean, right? You're a varsity basketball player, but you have no chance to play college basketball no matter what. It's just not in your cards. It's not going to work out. It's just not there. And I had the feeling that a handful of kids that I coached were 100% aware of that. Like I wouldn't say it directly like that. We wasn't like we needed to talk about it, but they knew it. They knew that that wasn't their ticket out. But there would be parents that like genuinely were so confused about how their kid fit in to the ecosystem of basketball that I would sit there with parents, with vice principals, with my athletic director, and I would have to sit there with a straight face and find a nice way to say that your kid's not good at basketball because the conversations would be I, I don't even know how to say insulting to my intelligence, but they wanted, why are we running this play? Well, why is the offense doing this? As if I were, and the argument is if I would just do something different, then their kid would get the scholarship. They'd score 8 more points a game, whatever they were thinking. And it was so delusional that that experience made me realize like most people that are watching blame the coach because they don't understand the game. And it's just easy to blame the coach. It just, especially if your kid's playing, right? It's just easier to blame the coach, especially if the coach doesn't have a thick resume. There you go. I didn't play in the NBA either. So I want Brandon Hyde to win and I want Hardball to win. I want the guys that never played to win. Trust me, because that would be my way of winning. Like I want to point to, the coaches that never played before, whatever. So I'm not trying to insult Hyde's, the fact that he never made it as a baseball player. But once you realize that that's not your skill set, is to sit there with Gunner and be like, hey, back in the day when I was hitting 340, this is how I swung the like. No, you're not there for that. And I think he knows that. So he's there for discipline. He's there for organization. He's there to be the leader. But he's screwing that up because he needs too much attention. He needs the pat on the back. He needs to be able to say, somehow, some way, I'm part of why we're winning. And I just think if we're being very, very honest about this Orioles team, we could have found somebody that was a high school baseball coach that could have coached this Orioles team. I just truly believe that. I think we're at this point right now where we'd be better off if Freddie Gonzalez was the manager, Drew French was the manager, somebody that was willing to say, I'm just happy to be the manager. Let's just let the players play. If we're good enough to beat the Astros, good enough to beat the Yankees, then great. If not, then fine. But the whole story of this team is we have the best young players because we have the best general manager. Not because we have the best in-game manager, not because he is so far advanced analytically that he's figuring things out, that he's so in touch with the players that he knows who to play. If anything, he's getting that way wrong, and it's been frustrating because this team is so easy to root for, and I'm not even mad at any of the players. I don't think most people are. Yeah, you get frustrated, Arias does this, or Kimbrel does that, or whatever, a guy's going through a slump, but you're intelligent enough to understand that that happens in baseball. What we're not, at least I'm not willing to do, is watch my favorite team be good enough to win, and then my manager pop in there and say, let's try this out today. Really getting on my nerves. I wish we would just leave him in Tampa and let Freddie Gonzalez actually is a manager. Like he managed the Marlins and the Braves successfully, and then had a really bad 2016 season with the Braves. Like it was 9-26 or 9-28, something like that. And they fired him, which I guess makes sense. But like they fired him, and he's never had a chance since. So now he's the bench coach. I guarantee if you polled the Orioles and they said Brandon Hyde was taking a leave of absence for Freddie Gonzalez, are you in favor of that? The players would say yes. So, all right, I'm going to try my best to leave him alone for the next few days because it's not fun to do this. But he just, man, he's really, really getting on my damn nerves, in case that's not obvious. All right, couple housekeeping things, and then let's move on to, getting ready for football season as we're getting close. I'm going to start getting my bets organized, my preseason bets, adding people to the company here in the next couple of weeks. So excited about a lot of things, but I put this in our Telegram chat. So I want to spend a minute or two and just explain one little change I'm making and why I'm making it. And if there's any questions about it, just feel free to reach out. But after the past couple of weeks, I've gotten some feedback that the video, that the podcast that I'm doing each morning, it's way more convenient if I just put it on YouTube and put it in the Telegram chat. And I get that. That wasn't breaking news to me. But my thought process of putting it behind the website is, you guys are paying $24.99 a month, or new people are, you guys are paying whatever you're paying. the $14.99 a month or the $99.99 for the year. And I didn't want anything to be given away, quote unquote, for free. But what I've realized is I'm making it more inconvenient for you guys as it is. It's just three more buttons to click. And I don't know, we live in a society now where if it's three more buttons, that might be enough for me not to listen to the podcast. So that I recognize that. And then the second thing is no matter how much I charge, whatever I'm charging, it feels a little weird, just being honest, to charge people to hear me talk. At the end of the day, the value of the company is going to be my picks and the guys that I put on here and their picks, right? We keep a cheap price so you can see the picks, hear the explanation, but the conversation and the talk, for the most part, is not what people are paying for. I mean, I personally don't pay, and most of the podcasts I listen to, if not every single one of them, as I'm trying to think, like I don't pay anything to listen to them. So I do feel like, let me change that up. So from now on, when I'll post in the Telegram chat, when I do the recap, like I was doing with the link to the YouTube video, the one thing that I do feel good about is when I bring on new people and we have other content that is longer form, that isn't just, my morning podcast, I will put that on the website exclusively. So when I talk about the industry and talk about some betting strategies, I feel okay putting that behind the paywall and telling people, hey, if you want to hear that, you do have to subscribe. But for you guys, I think it's just be better moving forward that I put my video up in the Telegram chat. Anybody can listen to it. And then, being fully transparent as I figure out my marketing strategy, I'd rather use my YouTube video every day to bring in new subscribers. So it's like, hey, if you want to hear me talk for 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is, let's put that out for free. So just wanted to clarify that all the picks are still on Telegram, but from now on, the morning podcast, I'm going to make available on YouTube instead of behind the paywall. And I think that's going to be it for today. The Padres. Oh, and also as the last thing I want to talk about. So my record, I put the record in there. Look, can't run away from my record with the Orioles. It is what it is. It's documented. It's there. Fine. The reason why I'm separating my record from the Orioles and my record with the Padres games moving forward, and then when I do college football and pro football, is because not every game is the same. I want to chart myself. I want you guys to be able to be like, oh, he does well at this, he does bad at this, and so forth and so on. And yeah, the overall lesson is I enjoy these Padres bets. I mean, it helps that I'm 21-9 to start. It's a really nice week, but I feel so much better not missing out. Like the past 2 days, the Padres, I'm assuming every single one of their prop bets would have gone through for the most part, like those over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. They scored 8-9 runs the past 2 games, and I just had one bet each night. But I didn't feel bad about it because it wasn't like I knew Jackson was going to hit a home run. I knew Gunnar was going to have a good night, and I didn't bet it. And I'm watching the game, and I'm like, I want to be happy Gunnar hit a double, but I can't believe I didn't bet it. I feel zero of that watching the Padres. So my number one piece of advice is if you haven't already done it, like remove the emotion from the betting. Bet on the games that where you could care less about the outcome. So I don't care if the Marlins beat the Padres or not. I was right yesterday that something felt off about the Padres. They almost came back and won. But I just feel I didn't care the other night that I was like, you know what? I probably would have gone 3-1 or 4-1 if I would have just done the player props. But I didn't because I didn't love the matchups. And the fear of missing out doesn't exist the way it does with the Orioles because you have opinions. So that's why I'm putting the record out that way. And yeah, I'm happy with being 21-9. I certainly am because it validates, and I hope it continues, but it validates my overall thesis about sports betting, which is it's more or less a gamble regardless. But if you don't follow the team, especially baseball, basketball, and hockey, when there's action every day, you're going to have a really hard time just popping in and trying to guess what's going to happen. Football is a different animal. We got 6 days to prepare each week. So I'm looking forward to breaking that down. Yeah, started with the Ravens. I want to do the preseason, and I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to break down the teams so it's clear and concise. I think I'm going to do it by division, but I'm still not 100% sure because I want to talk about a few individual bets. Part of me feels like I could do a podcast on each team. So I'm still weighing those options. I'll be here in the morning to do some football. Not exactly sure what, but we'll we'll get through it together because the whole point for me, and then I'll get out of here. The whole point for me for the NFL season is to frame each team's best case scenario and worst case scenario. Like, let's get it on the table, what's possible, because it feels like in the NFL almost anything is possible. So let's talk about what's the ceiling, what's the floor for each team, and then does it make sense to bet the future bets, or do you need, or does it make more sense to go on a week by week basis? So, like the Ravens, for example, is an automatic, never, ever, ever bet the future bets on the Ravens, like to make the playoffs or the win loss, because the team is so different if Lamar gets hurt. It's the same thing with the Rams. Like, if I look at a team and I'm like, I'm scared to death of the backup quarterback, and I know for a fact that they built the team around, the quarterback, I don't want to bet the futures, especially if that quarterback's been injured. Betting the Bills futures is a little different because Josh Allen doesn't seem to miss any time. But yeah, Lamar and Stafford, as soon as they get hurt for 4 or 5 weeks, that would mess everything up. So that would be a future. That's basically the conversation I want to have for these few weeks going in the football season. Let's go through each team. Could the Panthers win the division? Is that even possible, or no? Like, where's the ceiling? Could the Dolphins win the Super Bowl? Like, is there a world they could do that, or no? Go through each team, ceiling, floor, and then is there any value to bet before the season? Right. So looking forward to starting that tomorrow. Orioles are off today. Yankees go to Chicago, which is just frustrating. Hopefully the White Sox, I don't know, are in a good mood. Maybe they're giving away something. Who knows? But it doesn't seem like a great sign that the Yankees get to play the White Sox. But it is what it is. We do get to play the Nationals at home starting tomorrow for a 2-game set. Rogers makes his first start at home. That'll be fun. And then we get the Red Sox for 4 games this weekend. Red Sox are trying to fall apart. They're not there yet. They're trying to. The Astros beat the crap out of them over the weekend. We'll see how this week plays out. I'll have the Padres are playing the Pirates at home. Padres late start on the West Coast. So I'll look at that series, have bets out later accordingly. Appreciate everybody. If you need me for anything, just message me, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the morning. Have a good day.